44. The global plague. When the unthinkable became routine. The prediction, what we thought. In the late 1990s, amid exuberant talk of networks and prosperity, a darker scenario quietly circulated. A global pandemic would disrupt modern life. Air travel would accelerate spread. Dense cities would amplify impact. Supply chains would fracture. Governments would scramble. The world, interconnected and efficient, would discover that the same systems enabling growth could also transmit shock. This wasn't framed as apocalypse. It was framed as disruption. Borders closing, routines halting, fear moving faster than policy. Standing in 1999, this sounded pessimistic but plausible. Globalization had made the world smaller. Biology hadn't changed. Why this prediction made sense in 1999? The logic was straightforward and unsettling. By the late 1990s, international air travel had exploded. Urban populations were denser than ever. Supply chains were tightly optimized. Public health systems were nationally bounded. Epidemiology had long warned that speed and density favored pathogens. What had changed was scale. A localized outbreak could now become global in days. This belief fit the millennium-era duality perfectly. Optimism built on connectivity, anxiety built on its fragility. The same networks that promise prosperity also promise propagation. For younger readers today, it's important to remember that before the 2000s, pandemics were largely historical abstractions. 1918 influenza, medieval plagues. Modern medicine had fostered a sense of distance from such events. That distance was about to collapse. Who said it, and where? The scenario was articulated with striking clarity in Scenario Spoilers, 1997, published by Wired. Rather than predicting a specific pathogen, the article outlined systemic vulnerability, how tightly coupled systems behave under biological stress. It treated pandemics not as medical curiosities but as global systems failures. The warning wasn't dramatic, it was analytical, and that made it more credible. In 1999, this kind of thinking felt precautionary. In hindsight, it reads as rehearsal. What actually happened 2000 to 2025? The prediction was realized fully, unmistakably, and globally. In the early 21st century, pandemics moved from scenario to lived experience. Travel halted, borders closed, hospitals strained, economies paused. Daily life was reshaped by risk calculations. Key features matched the prediction precisely. Rapid global spread. Disruption of supply chains. Emergency government measures. Social and economic shock. The disruption was uneven, prolonged, and transformative. It touched everything from work and education to trust in institutions and information itself. By 2025, the idea that a pandemic could upend the world no longer required explanation. It had happened. Verdict. Status. Realized. A global pandemic disrupted modern civilization. The prediction accurately anticipated both the mechanism and the scale of impact. What it did not and could not predict was how deeply it would reshape everyday assumptions. Why it played out this way? The core insight was that efficiency creates fragility. Global systems optimized for speed and cost lacked slack. When stress arrived, they snapped rather than bent. Preparedness varied. Coordination lagged. Biology exploited every delay. There was also a psychological factor. Modern societies had grown unused to collective biological risk. Responses were improvised in real time. The future didn't surprise experts. It surprised systems. What this prediction teaches us about the future. This case underscores a powerful forecasting truth. The biggest disruptions come from familiar forces interacting at unfamiliar scale. Pandemics weren't new. What was new was the world they moved through. In 1999, the global plague scenario sounded cautious. In 2026, it feels obvious and permanently relevant. The future delivered connectivity's shadow. One sentence takeaway. The world learned that speed and closeness don't just spread ideas, they spread everything.